Who would you say out of the bands that you worked with best epitomized the rock and roll lifestyle?
Probably Keith. I mean, that would be the obvious choice. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, it was all there. I think Mick is another example of it. Some of the musicians didn't like it. George Harrison didn't like that lifestyle. He was happy to go home.
He was more quiet.
Yeah, he just leave me alone and let me go home.
Give me my privacy.
Yeah.
What was it like to have George Harrison write a song about you, Miss O'Dell?
It was awesome. I mean, he kept calling me to come and visit him at the beach house in Malibu. And when you look back, you think, what was wrong with me? But I just kept saying, yeah, okay, I'll come. And then I'd do something else. And finally, I went out one night and he said, sit down, I want to play you something. I'm going to make you famous. And I thought, uh-oh. And so he played the song for me, and it was just, I mean, it was like, wow, I knew, you know, not many people can say that a Beatle wrote a song about them, really can't, you know. So it was, you know, I was very honored by it that he would even do that.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about what the song's about?
Well, very little about me, actually. It says, I think the only thing about me is, why don't you call me Miss O'Dell? And not much has happened since I last saw you. But then he talks about all the things that were going on in his life at that time. And the reason he's laughing is it wasn't a funny song necessarily.
Yeah,
it's not a funny song.
It's about, maybe it was an inside joke of some sort.
No, it's about Bangladesh and the people dying and not having enough rice. And so what happened is he sang, when he was recording it in London, he forgot the lyric, or he sang something like about the rice that keeps rolling up to your front door, and it was a mistake. Those weren't the lyrics, and he started laughing. Then the other musicians in the background were laughing, and he kept laughing, and they decided to leave it in. And I've got an original without laughing, and then I have it with laughing. But Capitol Records, when he played it to them, said, oh, you've got to put that as the A-side because it makes you so human. And he just wasn't ready to do that.
Oh.
So it went on to the B-side of Give Me Love, Give Me Peace, which is a very serious song.
I read somewhere that you were the first, or one of the first, tour managers that was female.
Mm-hmm. When I first got asked to come and do tours, it is true, there may have been some women in kind of for small tours, maybe blues. I don't want to ever say I was the first because that probably isn't true. But in rock and roll and in the big tours that were going on in the 70s, yes, I was. And, you know, when they asked me to do it, it just seemed like, okay, this is cool, I can do this. And when I went to work for Linda Ronstadt, she just went, oh, I'm so happy to have a woman around, you know, because she'd been surrounded completely by men when she toured. One of the most untalked about, and actually it's something that I really want to look at even more, is that someone called me the grooviest groupie of the 60s, and I got emails from friends of mine that I had worked with and musicians saying, oh, I never really thought of you as a groupie. And I said, well, they don't have another word for a woman during that period of time.
Wow.
It's the only way they know how to say it. But yet, if you're talking about men from that period of time, they don't say a groupie who was doing exactly what I was doing. They would never say that. So that's kind of an interesting thing that's come out of all of this, is to see how often the media has to go to that word because they don't know how to describe a woman who comes from the rock and roll world.
Sometimes Daily is on tour through April 2010. Got a great story or know of a super interesting person for me to interview in these cities? If you do, pitch me at Amanda@sometimesdaily.com.